Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. I want these meetings to be quick and easy. And if you're joining live, I'm so thankful that you're here. If you're catching the replay, I am so excited that you made the time to do that. We will be meeting every day at 11 Central Time. By the end of the week, I want you to have a really clear sense of how play can be used and how you can use play to fuel your self-care. These are some of the things that I would say to myself, and you might be saying them to yourself when I was feeling tired and overwhelmed and burnt out and could not figure out how to add more play into my life. So often I felt like I was just feeling like I was too tired to do the things I enjoyed. I was practicing self-care in a way that felt like another check in the box. I shared yesterday on my Instagram stories, there was a point in time where I signed up for a yoga class because I thought I was supposed to go to yoga to practice self-care. That's what I just thought we were doing. And I hated it. And I spent the whole class thinking about how much I hated it. And then I couldn't figure out why I didn't feel energized by my self-care. And so some of the things that we'll talk about this week are how you can fill your time with creativity. If we've not met, my name is Angeline Franks. I am located in Central Arkansas. I grew up in Massachusetts. My clinical doctorate, I hope, is the very last time I burn out. But before then, I was in this cycle of constantly burning out. And most of that came from finding myself in this place where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to practice self-care. And I was covering and filling my days with lots of shoulds, which is what we're going to talk about today. How do we identify what is aligned with us, and how do we identify what I call shouldy self-care, which is should, not the swear word. And so that's just a little bit about me. This is Haley, our almost 16-year-old. Oh my gosh, she'll be driving soon. Brody, our dog. This is my husband. He's the reason I'm in Arkansas, if anyone's wondering. The whole story for another day. Is one that grounds me and that I love. It's presumably from Mr. Rogers. I don't know if we know that for sure, but it says that play gives children a chance to practice what they're learning. We know that as clinicians, as speech pathologists or educational assistants or teachers or whoever is here today, that adults use play to remember what they've forgotten. And we are going to do that this week. I don't think I have to convince any of you here that play works. We see it every day that kids learn and connect and thrive through play. We spend so much time explaining to other professionals why play is one of the ways that we target functional communication, functional goals, because that's how kids learn. And ironically, it's how adults can learn also. That doesn't go away, that with creativity and play, things work differently in our brain, right? There's actually studies that the part of your brain that functional memory wise, your memory, when you are stressed, when you have increased stress hormones, your memory decreases. And so by finding time for play, you're increasing your ability to connect with the things that you're learning or doing. There's so many benefits. I sent an email about this yesterday, but to the people who weren't signed up yet. So most of you haven't heard this story, but I woke up yesterday morning and I had lots of things to do. I have ADHD, so sometimes the urgency of a situation is what gets me to actually do something. I woke up and I was like, I have so many things to do. And now it feels urgent to get them done. I have to get the email sent and I have to get emails scheduled so that people have reminders and I need to let people in the group and remind them to join the group. That was my brain when I woke up. First of all, realize that the irony is that this is what we're talking about, and this is something that I'm teaching, and I now have a really great grasp on my play personality. I have a great grasp on my core values. And when I'm being really intentional about choosing and really scheduling times for creativity or play or joy, I know that my brain works better. But I also know that sense of urgency that we feel is something that is deeply ingrained in us, and it's something that we can unlearn. But in stress, when you do have something that you need to get done, it's really easy to fall back to that. I share that with you to say that one of the things that is helpful too is that when you know your play personality and you know the things that help you and you have a plan for self-care that feels really good and energizing, you end up having more space for it, which is so amazing. So I found some self-compassion. I didn't tell myself that I was an imposter for hosting a play week when I was not automatically practicing what I preach. But then I also took my phone. I set a timer for 30 minutes and I colored. I took out a coloring book, I took out some crayons, colored pencils, and I just colored. And that's something that I know is something I can do when I don't have a ton of energy that energizes me and puts my brain in a space that is clear. And so many times during that 30 minutes was I like, oh, I've got to do this. I just had to bring it back to what I was doing. Yeah. Jessica said in the chat that she feels this in her soul. Yeah, like so many times I was like, I need to be doing this. Like, no, really, you need to be doing this. And then when I sat down to write the email, I actually could write the email and it wasn't from a place of urgency. It wasn't from a place of stress. And I did get things done yesterday. And I did put in a couple more pockets of doing other things. And so, and I'm not a great planner. So if I can do this, I promise you can do this. Okay, we are going to do some, not necessarily journaling, but I want to give you some things to think about before I tell you about the play personalities. If you want to, you can grab a notebook, you can open your notes app in your phone, you can think these things in your head. Dr. Stuart Brown, the researcher who studied play personalities across so many adults, found that play does not look the same for everybody. And one of the ways that we can identify our play personalities is to think about the things that we enjoyed when we were younger. So I want you to think about, what did you love doing when you were younger? Was there something that made you lose track of time? Did you make up songs? Did you put on shows for your family? Were you the organizer of the games? I'd love if anyone could put in the chat if you have a memory or something that comes up for you. And I'm going to give you a second to think. Reading, writing. What you all will find is when we dive into the play personalities is that reading or dances or anything might fit into play for a different reason for different people. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I loved reading when I was younger. I loved reading every single book in a series. So I loved reading all of the Babysitter's Club books, or all of the Goosebumps books, or all of the Harry Potter books. When we get to the play personalities in just a second, you'll see that I actually could maybe think that because I loved reading was storytelling, but there's a play personality that's a collector, and that's the one that stands out to me as one of mine. I think the thing that gave me dopamine in that situation was really collecting all the books in a series or just knowing that I had read them all. And I'm going to give you one more thought question because this one really helps me. I want you to think of a more recent memory, a trip or a day or even an afternoon where you felt completely carefree. Who were you with or what were you doing? I share this because one memory that I have is a trip that I took with friends when I was 20. And my friend Glenn bought a school bus and he took out all the seats and he turned it into this RV. The school bus was painted blue. It was the most carefree time of my life. I was 20. We couldn't even drink. We didn't, believe it or not. It was just the best, most amazing trip. When I think about that, it helps me to kind of think about either what values or what core values are associated with that trip or what we were doing that kind of energized me in the way of my play personality. And so I think that's another good way to pull up just those carefree feelings. Because we know that when we talk about play, we're not necessarily just talking about games and hobbies. We're talking about that state of being, that happy, calm state of being. I want to read some of the things that people are putting in the chat. Going on adventures where we only have somewhat of a plan. I love that, Kim. Like strawberry picking, and we end up at the beach and getting ice cream. Yes, I love that. Definitely riding three-wheelers with my neighbors by ourselves on a ranch. Ooh, that sounds fun. Stop to swim. Yeah. Last year I went to Portugal with my husband. Had an amazing time just eating, sightseeing. Yeah. Doing nothing except whatever we want. Christy, I feel that in my bones. I love that. So I want you to keep these memories at the forefront this week as we're thinking about these things because they'll hold clues to your play personality and what lights you up. And so I'm going to put these questions into the community so that people can either drop like memories or pictures or things if you want to. And just if you're catching the replay and you want to refer to the community, I'll have the questions in there for you so you don't have to write them down or anything. Kim just said in the chat that it took her a second to think of one. And I think that is so common. And I'm glad you said that because it's not something that we keep at the forefront. And I think it's because we're in that constant go mode. Like yesterday, even when I knew what could be helpful, what would energize me, what would make my brain feel better to do this thing, or these pieces that maybe are not the best part of hosting something like this, the monotonous parts that could come up when you're writing your notes or when you're writing an eval. We don't make space for these things. So I think that's a really common thing. And I'm glad you said it because I would imagine you're not the only one. And I know for me, it took me a while to bring these things back to the front of my mind because they get buried in adulthood. I don't want you to worry about fitting into one of these boxes. This isn't about one play personality, but this does help us to understand that connection between these memories and your play personality. What we're looking for is just these different ways that keep people entering into this state of curiosity and feeling alive. And so we have the explorer, the creator, the storyteller, the competitor, the kinesthetic. I just realized I never said that out loud, and that's hard to say. And the collector. So those are the play personalities, and we're going to dive deeper into them tomorrow once you have an idea of what yours is. I'm going to drop the GPT that I made for you into the chat so that you can have it. If I can find my window. So there is a quiz out there that someone has made, and I'll put that in the group as well. Okay, here we go. So here's your GPT. So it will ask you some of those questions that we talked about today. And it really, your challenge for the day is if you can, no pressure. If you're watching the replay or you're watching this later, it's something that you can do at any point. I don't want to be bossy, is what I'm saying. But I would love if you write down some of your responses to those reflections and then notice any themes like movement or creativity or connection. And you do have to think a little bit outside the box because, like I said, as you are thinking about the play personalities, there might be a different reason or play personality profile behind what you were doing. So it may look different than what you expect, or it may look the same. And the other thing that the GPT will do that we're going to talk more about tomorrow is tell you some of the sneaky habits or ways that your play personality might be causing you a little bit of burnout. And I realized this as I was having people test the GPT that I know or work with burnout wise. So what they told me their play personality was when they finished was very close also to the habits or the things that were burning them out. So if you're a director as your one of your primary play personalities, we can talk about different ways that being a director might show up in your work life that are causing you to burn out. But my observation and what I've noticed for myself is when I use my play personality for good and not evil, I end up being able to use it for good in my work life too. If you want to do the GPT and find kind of your play personalities, I'm going to put a post in the community for people to share theirs. That leads us to the end of day one. If anyone has any questions, you're more than welcome to unmute or put them in the chat, or if you have any thoughts. And otherwise, we'll be here tomorrow at the same time. If you want to invite friends, you are welcome to. You can send them that original link. But anyways, I'm so glad you all came. Thank you. If you need anything between now and tomorrow, I will be inside of the school community, so you're welcome to put anything in there.